podcast for the OWASP Top 10 for Large Language Model Applications. If you'd like to stay up to date with our project, please click subscribe. And if you enjoy the content or have any questions, please feel free to comment and share. Now, on to our meeting.
All right, let's see. Is Scott here?
Yep. Did you do?
Oh, there's Scott. All right. All right, let's go ahead and dive in because we do have a lot to cover today. So, Scott and I are going to co-cover some stuff out at the beginning. I think pieces of this have been talked about over the past couple of months, but we're really getting ready to roll this out. And in fact, a bunch of this really is now official, and Scott can update you on what's happened at some of the OWASP board meetings. But I think all of this is indicative of the hard work that the group is doing, the number and type of assets that we're producing. And when you see it all on one slide, it really hits home. You know, to net it out, we went from a small-ish group. I mean, this group was never small, but small-ish group trying to produce one document to this sprawling, multi-headed hydra producing multiple documents at once concurrently. And we just can't run it the same way that we used to. So we're putting some more structure in place. We're going to try to keep things fluid and interesting and allow people to lead in a bunch of different ways, and it should be fun. The thing that goes hands in hand in this is Scott had put together some great slides that he can take everybody through on sort of the state of the community and growth. And we've seen pieces of this before, but again, seeing it all come together. And then we'll take reports from the leads. I see there's a number of slides from the agent sub-team, which doesn't surprise me given how active that is. So with that, let's just dive in. So Scott, why don't you share the big news?
Yeah, so it's official. So we are a flagship project for the foundation. So we had this has been a little bit of a discussion. We know we've been kind of moving toward this path. Yesterday, we had the board meeting to get the final okay and address any questions that came along. So I have to say, I did review the slides I'm going to share that we have here in the deck with the board. They were more than pleased with the project that our whole team has made, and we're very excited for a unanimous move for us to be a flagship project. So, what does this mean? Thank you for the flagship typo. Yes, I'm always great with typos. Thank you, Russell, for always making sure I'm corrected. So the good news is that we're our flagship. What this means is that it is not something that comes by easily. In fact, there's over 200 projects that are part of OWASP as projects. There are only a handful of projects that make it to flagship. And today, I think there's probably about 6 or 7 projects that are flagship out of all of that. What goes into flagship is important too, because it's not just progress the community is making, it's also the board recognizing the strategic value of the project. And that goes into a large part of it. So it's not as if a project can just naturally progress to being a flagship. It has to be selected as a flagship project. So I just want to take this moment to congratulate everybody who's been contributing to this. This is a team effort that has gotten us to this stage. And we should just kind of give ourselves a little round of applause for ourselves just for getting to this stage. Yeah, I would applaud there. There we go. So it's official, and we'll be doing some rollouts. So coming up ahead, just this week, we will have PR that is going out, a press release that will be announcing both our rebranding, and we'll talk about that in a second as I go through the slides, as well as our move to flagship. We're in the process of our lead-in up to RSA to also do a press and analyst roundtable. We'll be talking about this, so that will be coming. So that will include members of the team here, of the leadership. It'll also include some of our sponsors to talk about their experiences. And we're working through our PR agency to kind of pull that together ahead of RSA. So look for our PR coming up tomorrow, and more to come here. So as Steve talked about, these are some of the slides I shared with the board. One of the things that kind of helped people get an idea is when we looked at where we started with what I call phase one, which is our top 10 for LLM. We had a good start there. Like Steve said, we never really had a super small community. We had a good active community, but we made some choices along the way. I think coming out of our work and leading up to actually some of our work with RSA, the decision to become more solution focused. So the asks that everybody had from an end user when we saw it being picked up by everyone from CISOs to practitioners as a tool using the top 10 for LLM as a starting point, it became clear we needed to also provide solutions. People were asking for solutions. So we started with things like Sandy started out with a CISO governance checklist as one of our first items. It kind of started to map it toward personas and solutions. We also started working on our AI security solutions guide to provide people connected solutions, security solutions that help address those top 10. That was sort of our phase two. Phase three kind of got kicked off with our threat intelligence work, the work that Rachel had started with a proposal of an initiative and our introduction of sort of a new structure within the project that would allow us to do initiatives or projects within a project to a large degree. And that has built out, as we all know, across a variety of different areas from the threat intelligence to agentic to data mapping to security center of excellence, all looking at red teaming, all addressing different personas. And then our last phase, kind of phase four, is what we've been working on around project sustainability. And that connects two things. One, that connects the sponsorship program that we kicked off, and that continues to connect up the organizational structure that we're working on to make sure that we have a structure that can survive over the long term. And so it's while we're working to write things down, we're also looking at providing a framework that will allow us to, that's based on how other organizations have done this in the past. So we're not reinventing the wheel, but we are leveraging best practices to make sure that we have a sustainability built into the governance and the structure of the organization as we go forward. Now that we've grown to the size that we are with the amount of initiatives we have. So this was very well received by the board. And so go to the next slide. And so this is a great slide to see all the stuff that everybody has been producing. This definitely got a reaction from the board. Often you'll see one project producing one asset. We're now in a situation where producing things almost every couple of weeks, or if not every month. We just seeing the number of pieces we have, over 10. We're going to have, this doesn't even count the translations. So we've got another, I think, 10 translations. If you think back to what we did with the top 10, the original top 10, the translations that have just come out a week or so ago, there's another 5 translations coming, and there's more of that in the roadmap. So again, congratulations to everybody who's been contributing to this. We're really making a dent in the knowledge in helping people be more effective around addressing the AI security issues. And so, this has been a great effort by everyone. So to talk a little bit about our transition, so we've talked about this before. So we started out with the top 10, and so you'll see the new wheel, which is going to be basically the graphic that we'll use to really kind of characterize everything that we're doing within the project, which includes starting on the outside with the audiences that we're addressing, because we're not just addressing the cybersecurity practitioners. Many people are already in the discussions about how we're addressing CISOs, CTOs with content. We're helping data scientists. We're also working with the GenAI developers. So all of these initiatives kind of pull together. So today our transition goes from having the top 10 list, becomes part of the GenAI security project, a component of. This was also an important requirement from the board because the top 10 lists exist for other areas. And it would be a bit unfair. It's unlikely that necessarily every top 10 list is going to end up looking and generating the level of content that this team has been able to do. So with that, that was part of our transition. And I think it works well to capture also all the work so that we can be clear about the top 10 still is very much a core component of what we're delivering. but it gives a framework by which we're delivering solutions and content and resources that address the broader scope of GenAI security.
Yeah, a couple other pieces of color just for me. I think going back to, when we kicked off the 2.0 list project, which became the 2025 list, I think this was a lot of the debate we had was, hey, the scope of this top 10 list is actually really good, but we want to do more. And there was talk about how broad do we want to make that top 10 list, how much do we want to capture, how long do we want to make that document. One of the wonderful things about the sort of core top 10 document is somebody can sit down and read it on a bus ride and come away feeling like they have a grounding in basic modern AI security. So if we had tried to cram all this stuff into the top 10 list and made the top 10 list become this, we'd have some crazy Frankenstein. I think instead, this allows us to keep the charter for that original top 10 list, which has been so popular and so powerful, keep that consistent, grow it in a very measured way in terms of what concepts we pull into it and how much material is in it, and let us have distinct things that people can come figure out how to dive in. I don't think the other thing is we couldn't project manage this as one document. It's just impossible. And so as we split this up, we can have somebody like ads stay as the lead on this piece, and then we can have people like Krishna and John dive in and be leads on other pieces and run them independently and run them fast. And I think that's a big part of the advantage of doing it this way. And as we get into Scott's later slides, you'll see that's why we need to do a little bit of rejiggering on kind of the management structure. But I think it's all to enable this to happen. And all this goodness has been happening a little bit because we have a bunch of smart people that generally get along and we're able to sort through it, but it was not going to be durable with people coming and going. And frankly, I think Scott and I were showing signs of stress trying to make the whole thing hang together without some more structure around it.
Yeah, and so this is the updated. So just as we talked about, that other slide, we think about it as sort of a lot of what we started out with was the drill down for the top 10 list, but it's all obviously expanded since then. When you start to look at all the things that are planned out for the year from the different initiatives, this is a lot of work, and which is great. This is fabulous. This is what people look toward, and by having this roadmap, that helps us with one of our other challenges right now. And another reason we started working on the governance was because we have more people asking to participate than we can, I believe, effectively get active. And so we want to be able to make sure we can get people visibility into what's coming. They can figure out where their expertise best plays. They understand how we operate very simply by reading a couple of documents and can plug in and be effective quickly. Because this is going to continue to build, and the reality of as these organizations and efforts go, as people come and they go, and we want to make sure we have an easy way for people to transition in, and in some cases, if they need to transition out for a little bit, great, and come on back when you have time. But we have the framework in place so they can figure out where to plug in. So this is what the roadmap is. I'll be updating this on the website as well today, a little bit later today. So thanks everybody for getting their updates in. I think actually I have some updates from John that need to get in here, but I had to go with this version for the board conversation. So we'll get those updates for John that you have in there, and I'll put that in the one that we put publicly on the website. Our sponsors continue to grow. So as part of our PR, we will be announcing 7 new sponsors. And this has been really great. Some of these are pretty interesting and exciting. So we've got people like ByteDance who've come in as a gold sponsor. So
Does everybody know who ByteDance is? Because nobody knows who ByteDance is. But you probably know what their product is.
You probably know their product. TikTok?
Yeah, it's TikTok.
So we have TikTok as an active contributor now within the project, and we do know obviously we've got people coming in and supporting from all of the major models from a variety of different places. But these are our sponsors. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about what the differences are in the levels of engagement we have with corporate companies, simply because we're moving fast, and I think we've communicated this a few times in the past, but I think it's good that we reiterate it. We need to do some more work on basically onboarding people and providing resources to do that. So I will be looking for some folks to put together a little task team to kind of help evaluate and help us work on building better onboarding. But this is our current list of sponsors, with more to come. So we have a total of 19 sponsors today. For us, it's been great. It's brought to our project the funding that we need to kind of keep things going, and that's great. And that was part of our shift in structure. We wanted to formalize the organization a little bit more. So this almost completely maps to the wheel that we're talking about. So previously we've had co-leads. So those co-leads, both Steve, myself, Ads, and John, we've been kind of loosely kind of working the organization together. We want to build some extensibility into this so that we have the ability to add and extend. So we have a formal board of directors. So we're going to make the transition easy. We're going to just move the co-leads to the board of directors. We're also appointing Sandy to the board. So we'll have a board of 5 people. And there are terms with the board so that people can run for election and that sort of thing. So we'll have those processes in place so that we have some extensibility for overall management of the project. The board's responsible for making sure that we're operating as a project efficiently and troubleshooting any issues along that way. The core project management team is an evolution of our core team that we have today. So the core team started out as the top 10 for LLM team almost exclusively. And then we've kind of bolted on these kind of Frankenstein pieces of initiatives to it. So we wanted to formalize that group. And as part of formalizing that group, it's going to include, the folks who have been identified who are either leading specific functional areas. Translations as an example, marketing and outreach, the initiatives, so initiative leads, and experts that get appointed by the board. So today there's not a great deal of change, but that is sort of the transition. There's also adding to that voting, ways to extend the board, extend the project management team. All of these based on standard practices for communities like ourselves. So again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're actually just implementing much of what's already been established. Our initiatives.
Oh, sorry. Just a little bit more color for me on that. This is going to be the most confusing part for some people. So I just want to spend a minute on it, which is the core team had grown up from, initially it was just people I was picking and putting on a Slack channel because they were active. That was it. That was the only requirement. There came a point at which I tried to morph that over to include people who were volunteering to take on jobs. And so, Aubrey raises his hand and says, I'll be the PR guy. It's like, okay, great, you're on the core team. And Talesh raises his hand and says, I'll do translations. It's like, okay, you're on the core team. I think Scott raised his hand and said, I'll do marketing. There was some point at which, these things kind of were that. But what we wound up on the core team was a mix of people who were what we were calling entry leads, which meant you were the guy marshaling all of the input on LLM 07 for a particular release of the top 10 list. Or, you were the person doing PR for the whole distributed project. And it was really just apples and oranges at this point. It goes back to that dichotomy of, are we the LLM top 10 project, or do we house the LLM top 10 project? And as we move to that structure, what's going to happen is, and we're really at this point where Scott and I are going to make this break, so I want everyone to understand it. Some of the people on the core team, if your contribution is really mostly specific to the LLM top 10 list, Ads and I will form a core team for the LLM top 10 list, and it will go back to something more like what it originally was contributors, very active contributors to that LLM top 10 list. It will be the kinds of things, you're an entry lead when we're working on the next version of it. Um, the, what Scott has down here is the core project management team. That's mostly going to be people with specific jobs. And in a few cases, we're going to pick somebody who's just a really active general contributor on the project, and we're going to pull them up and we're going to call them an expert. But for the most part, it's people with jobs that span the individual items here. So, if you are today on the air quotes core team and you're not on the CPMT team going forward, it's not because we don't love you, it's because we're splitting the responsibilities. And, if you're on the core team today and you continue to be active and you want to work on the next version, the 2026 version of the top 10 list, I guarantee you there's an invite to the core team for the LLM top 10 in your future. But I think what we want to split it up is for the people who are really interested in core security for LLMs and want to contribute to that as researchers and writers. There's a place for you, that is revered and respected, and we're excited to have you work on it. On the other hand, if you're interested in doing some heavy lifting across all of this stuff, um, some of you have jobs that are doing that. You're going to get automatically pulled into this. We do have a few other job openings, uh, and we're kind of always growing that as the project gets bigger. So if this is something you really want to participate in, even if you don't know exactly how you want to, reach out to me, reach out to Scott, kind of raise your hand. We're always looking for help, but I just want to be clear about how that's going to split up. So, if you're on the core team today and you wind up moving in one place or another, hopefully this helps everybody understand why. And if there is any confusion, reach out to me, reach out to Scott. We're happy to talk through it. All right,
Yeah,
Scott,
there's all,
keep going.
yeah, I mean, there's bound to be questions. And so as we kind of go through this, this is a kind of change management 101. But I think the goal is to make sure we can find people who are passionate about areas, find places that they can thrive, and help us build sustainability into the project overall. So, yeah, reach out to us.
Okay.
Quick question real quick before you move on.
Yeah.
What's your timeline for kind of finalizing the definition of these different groups?
Kind of done.
End of done.
That's what I assumed, but I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. So it's really this was the place we were gonna sort of officially announce it as complete here. There is an updated charter doc and things, which Scott, have we posted on the GenAI site already?
Yeah, they're on the GenAI site. So there is an updated charter and mission for the project. There is also there's a governance. So if you look under the project, you'll find a governance pick, and that has our governance structure, which is based off of the standard merit-based structure. So again, we're not a top-down organization, we're a bottoms-up organization in terms of how we structure and how we make decisions. If there are any questions about how do we vote, how do we approve things, all that now is written down. The stuff that we've been doing as part of our tribal knowledge is now characterized there, so new people can understand it. And when we forget, like me, I usually forget stuff. I can go back there and figure out how do we actually do things when we need to kind of make some decisions. I think Krishna had seen some edits that needed to be made there, so there was a little bit of a, web is always fun. So sometimes things get copied up there and they show up, and sometimes they decide not to. So, but that's all corrected now. So it's a complete set for our governance. Now, we also do want to keep it relatively lightweight. So we're trying to balance off of not laying on a deep governance document, but providing the guidance that we need. Where we need to provide more guidance, we'll create extensions to that, separate documents that will drill down where necessary. But what we have there today is really characterizes the way we operate today, and streamlines and clarifies kind of these new roles and these new groups.
All right. I think this is you, Scott. So let's try and get through this in the next 5 minutes or so, and we can get to the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll just blow through this real quickly. So just global interest and outreach. So these are some of the slides that I also shared with the board just to give people an idea of the scope we have. So we are truly a global reach. So this is just from our website alone. So you can see we're hitting multiple countries on a regular basis with some significant, contributions there. Next slide. Our contributor, so we are also tracking both in terms of on the left side. I know this is a busy slide because it's talking about a lot of things, but on the left side, what we're trying to track here is how is our contributors growing, who's contributing, and how active those contributions are. The only way we have to measure that is, well, through GitHub or through our Slack channels. And so as we look at our Slack channels, we want to see how many people are part of that. And on the left side, we are tracking both the people who are in two primary groups. The project top 10 for LLM, because that has been historically our standard kind of open group that gives us a very unique set of numbers. So we know there are no duplications there. And then the overall number. So the red line is across all of our channels. What does that look like? Now, there is some duplication there, but unfortunately, Slack doesn't make it easy for us to dedupe the duplication. So I would say that we probably have I figure about a 25-30% duplication rate. And so that's why we get to a slightly lower number. But we're looking to target, our overall, you can see from that our growth continues with the project, both those who are interested in the top 10 for LLM are joining, as well as those who are even contributing. So it's great to see that great continued growth. The other one on the right is community engagement. So how often is that community active within our Slack, who's posting, etc. And so the only measure we can really do consistently there are the number of posts. And so we can see that it kind of does follow where we have major releases. You can see in Q2 2024 where we had kind of a spike down there below in the top 10 list where that was obviously work that people were responding to. We released the earlier stuff around the events at RSA. But you can see the buildup. The big buildup you can see there also is right in Q4, right? So the big peak there as we came together to put out the 2025 list, we actually were releasing 3 or 4 documents. And then you have it dropping down a little bit as things kind of softened up into Q1, which kind of mirrors the activity of the project in our publication. So this is a great way for us to see not only project growth, but also project engagement. And we want to continue to see that growth continue. So we're keeping track of that. This follower number is already wrong. So it's almost, I don't know, Aubrey, if you can check LinkedIn, but at last I looked, we were about 8,100, so heading to 8,200 total followers. And that was just over the last couple of days because I pulled this a couple of days ago.
8147.
8147.
8147 already. Yeah, it's like skyrocketing.
So we're seeing our average growth is over 60% on just new people joining our LinkedIn. So that is huge in that continued growth. We see in Q1 of this year where we had a huge spike. So I think what we're finding is that our publications and their awareness of those publications has lagged almost sort of a quarter. I expect that to kind of change as people get to know us, get more familiar with what the project is producing. But we saw that big transition, I'd say, in Q1, where people picked up on the stuff that was put out in Q4 and are really starting to drill down and look for more stuff. They're becoming hungry for what else is the project producing.
Yeah, I'll just say as a side note, for the first year and a half, I would post all the project announcements on my LinkedIn because we just didn't have enough followers on the project's LinkedIn and didn't get a lot of engagement. Gradually it's picked up, and I mean you can just see it in that massive spike from Q1. It's turned over, and I think it was initially the release of, I think, the red teaming thing that we posted there, and like people just piled in, and then the agent announcement. So we really see just like so much more engagement from that channel, and we can all continue to post these things ourselves to get them broad reach. But I think there now is this really active community around the LinkedIn group, which is awesome.
Yeah, and what you'll see us starting to do at the outreach group, we want to make sure we have a calendar of regular publications that are coming out through our LinkedIn channels that you can all then repost and republish, so that we continue to have a consistent, growth around that. So we'll be looking at everything from opportunities to do guest blogs on our website and other things like that that'll help us continue to grow that number, so that people are looking to that channel as a key resource. On our website, we had the OWASP website back in, early part of the project. It wasn't up until May that we launched the first version, which was Creaky, of our current website. Over time, it's kind of gotten a little bit better. And as you can see, that's getting recognized by the amount of views that we're getting. So we're starting to have a respectable number of views for the website. So the green line represents, when I think about statistics and we think about visitors or views, that's when people are just coming to the website. Where people are looking at and spending some time on the website in our visitors section, that's where people are engaging with us. So we can see two things happening. We can see a direct line of engagement or awareness growth, as well as increased engagement, though not at the same level. It's still showing that we're on the right path for our website. There are some things we are considering, things like bringing localization to the website. And we have finished onboarding a new vendor who will be taking over website management going forward. So it will give us the ability who are experts on it, we'll be tuning up the website, and there'll be new processes coming out on how to do website updates and how to do posts and stuff. So that will be coming out probably in the next couple of weeks.
If we just get everyone to you want to go back to that one? If we get everyone to like the website, we'll go up to 1,000%, right? Just the people on this call, right? So
How do you like the website? What is that?
Well, so I think this was part of the website design issues that we technically shouldn't have any likes, because likes are tied to a specific post, or we need to have everything set up for likes. So there's some stuff on the back end. That's why we have a firm hired to make sure that we can take it kind of to the next stage.
Okay.
And then we're continuing to grow our newsletter subscribers. So thanks again to Krishna and others for helping to kind of drive this for a while. I had just picked it up just this last issue that we put out, because we have some commitments to RSA because of our summit, that we have to do some promotion with RSA. So that's why you've seen the new update to the newsletter, but we're continuing to see strong growth. And I believe we have someone who's stepped up to take on the website going forward. So the newsletter going forward. So that will be great to have another resource to kind of help move that on, as Krishna has been focusing much more on the red teaming initiative. We're continuing to see growth. Star history continues to go upward. So this one's just picked up a couple days ago. So this is our GitHub engagement. So we're just under 700 stars. So it would be nice to get over that little bump there, but we're growing consistently. You can see from the path there, it's pretty much a straight line. We haven't flatlined yet. Not the way I'd expect us to flatline, but a lot of projects do kind of reach their peak. But we're continuing to see more and more engagement, which is great.
All right. Let's see who put in slides. So, all right, well, it's still Scott, but
oh no, sorry, it's still me. So, update. So we finalized the summit agenda, and that will be going out today. So for all speakers, there are also speaker cards. So as soon as we get the post out on the event, you can start using your speaker cards to it. I'll send out some notes on the URLs to use, etc. for that. But we're set to go. And this will be at RSA. Again, for folks who aren't aware, this is open to all pass holders. This is happening on Wednesday, the 30th. and it starts at 8:30 in the morning. Going to the next slide. So this is our layout for the room. So we're going to move up. Last year we had about 150 capacity. This year we're going to be around 300 because we were standing room only for most of the time. And so this is our setup. We'll be on the 3rd floor, room 306 through 307, Moscone South. We have our signage there that's been approved, so that's what you will see if you're looking for it on site. We also have been putting together some pull-up banners to be able to use to talk about the project, which will have our new kind of representation of the project, and we'll use those in a couple of places. So that'll also be useful for people to find the room and see what we're working on. Next slide.
Am I going to be able to still shoot footage at the event?
Go back. So here's where so the footage is a good question. The one thing I believe we're going to be able to do the same thing that we did before, because it's a union house.
Yep.
So we're technically supposed to use union video recorders. But I think if we do the same approach as before, we should be okay.
Yep, small, discreet.
Yeah, small, discreet. I also have some tools that we could, like, I have some sticks that we can put another camera on it further out and just kind of lets things roll, and then you can do your magic of editing later.
I've got a bunch of stuff I can bring for this. It'll be all very small.
Yes. Good. Okay. Now the pickup for the audio, because the board is in the back, I don't know how that will be for you to be able to pick up audio. So that's something to be aware of and think through.
Yeah, I may be able to bring a separate sound recorder and just ask them if I can plug in and just kind of have a copy of it.
Yeah, just do it as a separate recorder, just a digital recorder, so that we can then match it up later. That's a good, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they would be fine with that. And so we'll see. We're playing we'll do this a little guerrilla, because when it comes to paying for video there on site, it's not inexpensive. I didn't have another 20,000 to throw at it.
Not worth it.
Not worth it.
I got you.
Cool. So, and we also this year we have a community networking event that we have finalized. It'll be at the Spur on Wednesday following the summit. We have the gallery there. It's a nice space that gives us a lot of, I think it's basically about a block off of Moscone, so it's very accessible. Bonus for us here is they are a not-for-profit. So what that means for us is that we get a 50% discount on space rental, and we do not have to pay. We are not constrained by the 3-day minimum for citywide events like RSA and Oracle World. So we're able to kind of sneak in and got this confirmed. So we will be having this venue. Also, I believe, and I'll turn this over to when John talks about ASI, I think he was going to look to do a workshop there in between. So after we have this room from 1 p.m. on until technically 11 p.m. when people have to pack out for catering. And I am looking for some help on helping coordinate catering. I do have some help from on the coordinating on site, which is great, and it's open to everybody in the community. Come on down. There is an option for us to pick up the 2nd floor if we want to. If we have an opportunity to do presentations, if we think there's a presentation value, there's basically a theater setup upstairs, and so we could potentially pick that up if we decide we have a specific programming we want to do there. So that's an option. It just costs us more money, but not a lot comparatively.
Right.
Oh God, this is still me.
Moving along.
Yeah.
All right. We'll save the
Save
project.
that for the end. Save that for the end.
Yep.
Because I do want to come back to that.
All right. We'll see if we have time. Otherwise, next
I'll be
time.
very quick. So, first of all, amazing stuff there. Scott and Steve. I think, the whole initiative of Agentic AI, if anything, is a proof point of why we need that governance. And when we have these conversations around version 2 and all the other stuff, that clarity is important. When I talk to national cyber agencies, I talk to government, that governance, that transparency that we have is our biggest selling kind of value. So I really, really like what you just presented, Scott. Now, Agentic AI, we released the documents, but we all said, well, 50 pages document. Okay, I'm a kind of a guy that reads those things, but not everyone does. So we have this visual, kudos to Helen and Scott who produced it, and it has become really, really popular. We got really good feedback from, I put the Cisco post. I also was invited in a National Cybersecurity Agency's seminar a couple of weeks ago, where I took them through everything, and very good feedback from that. They interested in collaborating with us, and the UK and CSC has already added a person to our review board. So, fantastic kind of reception of the document, and really, really great and robust feedback that we're now going to integrate to incorporate to 1.1. Next slide, Scott. Highlights, I think that Insecure Agent Hackathon that Ali is driving, and many thanks to Aubrey and Scott for the podcast and newsletter. I think it will be really, really a vibrant event, so we're looking forward to that. I've kind of even myself thinking of writing code. And then the next part is the AI Security Summit. Good lineup there of our distinguished experts panel to come and talk to us about Agentic AI. We also want to cover some of the newly released NIST document on adversarial AI. Both Apostol and Hiram are authors of that, so it will be great to have them there. And then, Scott, you already mentioned that we want to do a little bit of kind of a open update session of the group of the workstream leads will be there, have it live stream, have people ask questions, and drive that feedback and lively engagement that the initiative has. And then the next.
Let me ask you a quick question there, which is the space that we have. Can you take a look and see whether that space is sufficient for what you
I think it should be, but I will. Yeah, no, I can if I have made.
As I mentioned, we have access to potentially pick up a larger room.
Okay,
if we want to on the next floor.
I've just asked for now. People kind of saying they're going to be there. So far the numbers don't look massive, but I will let you know by tomorrow, Scott. Another experiment that we do with the agentic kind of project is how do we scale the work in a very similar way, kind of copying what Scott and Steve were doing at the kind of project level by creating work streams and allocating work. All of them are kind of in full steam now. Ken actually is closer to having a draft. I think one challenge that we're finding there is that making sure that everything aligns rather than replicating or kind of having an alternative version of that. That has been, kind of the biggest challenge for me as the kind of the editor there, so that you don't want the threat modeling guide to have a different taxonomy from your existing taxonomy. But nothing. I think governance importance, culture is also important. As someone said, people who get on with each other, I think that's really important. If you have that, you can align things. So overall, really, really excited of how people are progressing those things. And then next slide, Scott. The roadmap hasn't changed massively. We're just aiming to have some good updates for the RSA kind of conference. The securing agentic upgrade may go a little bit further because we need to think a little bit more about what we're saying there rather than just say generic things. And then the next slide, Scott. Yeah, so this is, if you're watching this, you can read the document, you can join the project, and you can take part in a hackathon. And that's me.
All right.
Me.
Aubrey, this looks like you.
That is me. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we have a podcast that has been hitting it. So that's the reason for it. Spotify is one of those things. I have 4 podcasts between my daily job and this that I manage. And I got to tell you, Spotify is a tricky place. Most of the other podcasts that I have on there really have kind of single digits in all these things. Somehow we ended up kind of exploding. Somebody watches this particular podcast. This is the GenAI security podcast, if you're not familiar. And it has 5 episodes so far. That's it. It's roughly bi-weekly. So it has really been catching on, which is quite nice. So I wanted to encourage everyone to please get out there and listen to it. It's good. It showcases some of the things that we are doing. Like this past one, you can see Ali Howe was on and talked about the Agentic Hackathon in New York City. And in addition to that, just the fact that we have a podcast and it is growing pretty hard on Spotify. It's already got decent viewership on YouTube, but the Spotify thing is a brand new thing. But I also wanted to show the format of video that I've got for kind of social posts. I've just found a good way to work with to kind of have a work stream to put up social post videos, which has not been part of my sort of arsenal in the past. I think this on the right looks perfect. It's short. These are intended for less than 1 minute clips and will be available to kind of, get out there on Instagram or to get out there on, TikTok, right, to support our our supporters, right?
Yeah,
And
we should probably have
and the
something
like.
on TikTok now, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I posted a bunch of stuff in the past, but I think it's time to kind of reinvest in that. I'll do more digging on that, and that's it. So I didn't have a lot more beyond that. Oh, I did have one other thing. I do have another podcast from my day job that some of you might like called AI Friday, and this week we are having a guest that you all know named Steve Wilson to go live, and we're going to be talking at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, on F5 Dev Central. So just figured I'd put it out there if you wanted to ask questions to the guy yourself.
Yeah, I just want to point out too, you got the new branding popping up there. So
That's right.
that's sort of our new look for the project. So just a quick point out there. And then Steve, you were saying something?
I don't know what I was going to say, but I know what my question is now, Scott, is on the new branding, the announcement, you've got a press release, you're prepping. What's the target date for that?
Thursday,
Like
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Okay,
Ooh.
gotcha. All right. I don't know who this one is. Probably
Oh,
Scott again.
this is actually me again. We should switch these up so make sure I'm not talking
Okay.
in sequence here. But yeah, let's go to I'll talk about this really briefly. This is just a discussion that we're having right now with the Cyber Risk Alliance. One of the things that they do is they reach out. They have a large audience that they talk to. And so we're looking at how can we tell our story to a broader audience, make sure people are finding us. And so with them, they've had some suggestions around ways that we can work together as an organization, which include working across a lot of their different properties. Specifically, they're going to help us with our virtual event that I've been talking about. So they'll be able to run it for us. Benefit for that too is that they have a broad audience that they can do outreach to for their group. And this will be an opportunity for our sponsors to be part of as well, so that we can have multiple tracks, et cetera, et cetera. There's also some opportunities for our SMEs here within the group who want to get out and help us tell the story. Cyber Risk TV, they have a number of interviews they want to do with us as part of it around our different projects, et cetera. Again, another channel for us to get the message out there. And then one of the ones I wanted to highlight here is, there's two things. One was they have a CISO audience. Some of our members are members of that CISO audience. And they've been looking as an opportunity for us to get feedback. So they've been trying to work to get more feedback from their actual CISOs. This will give us an opportunity to take work in progress content and also selfishly kind of maybe recruit a few more CISOs to the project to kind of help Sandy and help others out in terms of more CISO related content. So that'll be kind of fun. And then there's this thing in October, which is InfoSec World, which we would have an opportunity to participate in both from sessions and from booth and for sponsors. More of that. This is all in discussion right now. I'll have more data on this as we kind of finalize this. But I would be looking for someone else to help out with InfoSec World because I will be busy. I've got a wedding to deal with. So not my own, my daughter's. So, but very excited about that. But I will be out of pocket for a lot of October. Oh crap! Go to the next slide. So this is an opportunity that's come to us to potentially partner with COSI in the OASIS Open Group to take on a board seat or a technical steering group seat opportunity. They don't have any other associations offer that, so I'm interested if folks are interested in potentially helping us with those with that seat. We'll have more details on it in the coming weeks, but I wanted to highlight that to make sure that if people are interested in becoming more engaged in that, we can have a conversation.
All right. This is not Scott.
Thank God.
Who wants to talk to this one? Whose slide is this?
This is Sandy for sure.
Is Sandy here? Nope. Well, let's see. It looks like there is a target release date for the red teaming compass for April 17th, which is a little bit less than a month away. I will just reiterate one of the things I said at the top. The red teaming guide has been ridiculously popular. The amount of traction on socials and things for that was amazing. That may have gotten the most sort of likes and reposts and engagements of anything that I have posted from the group. So exciting to see this group continuing on and see, Krishna, Sandy, others who are involved in that group pushing ahead on it. So
Yeah, and I'll say that it's one of our top 3 downloads.
yeah, I'm not surprised. AI red teaming is one of those things that has just caught on, and it's become it's become a legitimate job category, but it's also something that people can get into pretty quickly and start to make themselves useful. So having these kind of things out there is fantastic. So Scott, we're going to go back to some of your updates here, but you've got about 3 minutes, so pick and choose here.
Yeah, so no, go back to the back slide. There.
This one?
So I just
Okay.
wanted to recap real quickly for folks who are, when we start working with specific, commercial entities, we've got 2 basic buckets in which we have them. One is as supporters. Those are organizations that are providing us with resources. They may be not-for-profit organizations like universities. That's one group of supporters we have. The other group we have are project sponsors who are providing funding to the project, which we obviously are leveraging for all the outreach that we're doing and helping keep the operations and things operating. So we have a set of benefits for them. So these are kind of the 2 kind of groups we have. So as we put together, events and things like that, we want to make sure we're consistent around how we characterize their roles and that sort of thing. So I think we haven't been doing as much training or education on this. I know I did some of this early on, but I think we need to do a little bit more just so people know the different processes. The other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly was, let me just, I'll flash the next slide and then I'll move on to the next one. So in order for us to do our funding process, this is just a little bit of the guts of the back end of how we do this. We actually have a separate budget from the foundation. So in order to do that, we have some processes on the back end that enable us to do that. And I'll explain why we do that in just a second. Next slide.
Oh,
Yep,
this
there we
one?
go.
Okay.
Yep. So for example, one of the things we've talked about is event sponsors. And so I think this is something that we can start to look at. But in order for us to do that, we have to implement some of the back end steps to be able to support that. And I think it's a great thing for us to do, but we want to be very clear about who are our project sponsors, who are providing funding, and then who are our event sponsors who want to provide funding specific to that event. Like the Agentic Initiative had a great, the hackathon. We had some supporters come together to provide resources, which is great. Other groups who want to do events that have sponsorship to cover costs, we can do that. We just need to set a separate process for doing that. So if you're interested in doing that, work with me. This has a few items. You can take a look at the slide of what are the things we need to do if you want to do that. We have to plan that ahead of time before the event so that we can make that work on the back end. The reason for that is because I've also gotten questions, well, can't we just hit the donate button on the project page? And here's the truth. That donate button is great. Love to have you hit that, but that funding goes directly to the foundation. It does not go to the project, just so you're aware. So the only way that we have, because we're right now the only project which is running with its own budget, is the backend process that we've identified working with the foundation. And so that's why we have to take these other steps. Not trying to be onerous, just the fact that this is a different process for them, for us to be able to do this. So just want to clarify those couple of questions there. Feel free always to hit that donate button and donate to the foundation, because we benefit from that. But it's not funds that we directly access for our project.
Quick question, Scott. The tag at the top is Team GenAI. That's a new one that's going to replace the Team-LLM, or is it already in effect? Or?
Yeah, it's one that I'm trying to get the edits that I thought for some of the things that we're doing that are more broad. Now that we have an LLM project, I thought for some of the cross-functional groups, it might make sense to kind of change that from LLM to GenAI.
100%.
Yep.
All
That's
right,
it.
team. This was probably more governance than we're used to on one of these meetings, but that was kind of the big piece of business that we needed to get across. But I think it's awesome to, again, just bask in the victory lap here. This is well under 2 years from even when I submitted the project, before it was a project, to being probably the most active, engaged thing going on in OWASP land right now, which is just amazing. You know, going from a total guerrilla group to having billion-dollar megacorps sponsoring the group, pouring tens of thousands of dollars, you know, now hundreds of thousands of dollars into this so that we can do things like what we're doing at RSA, and that's just the beginning. So kudos to everyone who's been part of this for the past, you know, year and a half plus. We have absolutely had a really big impact on this industry and this emerging trends around AI, and we're just getting started. So thanks everybody for being part of it. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for checking out our bi-weekly meeting podcast. If you'd like to stay up to date on all the latest news for the OWASP Top 10 for large language model applications, please click subscribe. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd share with a friend to grow our community. We'll see you in 2 weeks.